off. Let's see, what day was that? Let me look. That was on a Thursday, the 27th of November. We flew with Pan Am from Frankfurt to Berlin, and we flew with Pan Am because Lufthansa is still not allowed to fly over East Germany. And it was a nice flight. And then in Berlin, we took the subway to the borderline, which is underground, and we had our passes checked and asked how long we could stay in East Berlin, and we were told we could stay 24 hours. And for Americans, before you cross the border, you have to exchange 6 marks, which is about $2 and maybe 25 cents that you have to change because they want like German currency, West German currency, because it's of course good for them because their currency still isn't that high. So we changed, and we had no problem going over the border. They were real nice. They didn't, as I said, we didn't have any problem going over the border. The only thing was that we had to wait so long in this room until our numbers were finally called out, until they gave us our passports to say we could go through. We had to wait about 45 minutes. And the room was just filled with people, and it was of course a little uncomfortable, but that's what you have to go through to go there. So Mark and I, we took a streetcar to another part of East Berlin and went and visited his friend Ingolf. Ingolf he met in Prague, in Czechoslovakia, as he was on vacation, and they corresponded with each other, and so then Ingolf invited Mark to come visit him. Well, everything worked out fine. We went and we found Ingolf's place and spent the night there and had a great time. And the next day we had to go back over the borderline because you can only stay 24 hours. You can go back over the borderline and then come in again. But before we did this, we went to a travel agency because we wanted to ask if there was any way we could stay longer without going over the borderline. When we went there, the man said, well, how long have you been here? And we said, well, almost 24 hours. And he said, where did you spend the night? And we said, we spent the night with a friend. And he goes, what? You spent the night with a friend? And we said, yes. And he goes, that's not allowed. You have to spend the night in a hotel. And so we told him, we said, we're sorry, we didn't know that. So he told us we would have to go back over the border. And so Mark and I went back over the border and everything went fine, and we came back in, and then Ingolf said, hey, why don't you come with me to the city of Halle, where my parents live, and spend the night there with us? And we told Ingolf, yes, Ingolf, we could do that, but do you think it'll be safe? And he said, sure, sure. So we went illegally on a train, which took us to the city of Halle, which is near Leipzig, which is a very famous town in East Germany. And the train ride was 2.5 hours. And we spent the night there, and we went out to dinner, and we had a real good time, but we were nervous most of the time because we could have gotten in trouble, which I found out later, in very big trouble. We could have been thrown in jail, especially since Mark and I can speak German. They could have used the excuse that we were there as spies. And I'll never do it again, but Mark and I just wanted to do it because we wanted to see how the people really live there. And it's interesting. I was very depressed because everything is so blah. All the buildings look pretty much the same, and they're not colorful at all. And they, of course, nothing is commercialized because it is a socialist government, so you don't see any posters advertising anything anywhere. And if anything is advertised, it's for the army, how great it is to be in the army, and how great their country is. And that's it. And the towns are clean, but the restaurants are real crummy. There are still a few privately owned restaurants, and that was one we went to that evening there in Halle, which was really nice. And the average middle-class family, they do not have a bathtub or a shower. Ingolf's parents are average, and they don't have a bath or a shower. They just boil a pot of water in the kitchen and take a bath. And so being there, I can say I heard some interesting things, which I think is very good. They have setups like one country like Czechoslovakia builds all the streetcars for the Soviet countries, and how East Germany builds the buses, and so each country has their own part in what they can contribute. And but I like our freedom much better, because there you can't give your opinion on, or you can give your opinion, but if it's against the government, then you get a little X by your name. Ingolf was explaining this to us, and he says, for example, if you go to apply for a job and there's two people there, and one person is more qualified than the other, but if he has too many X's by his name, or more X's than the other person, then the other person will automatically receive the job. And I just tell you, when we got back over into West Berlin, we could really breathe freely again. Because, of course, like I said, we did go over illegally when we went to Halle, because we're only allowed to see East Berlin.